Welcome, everyone. I'm so excited to have you all here. My name is Dr. Eliana Ramirez. I am the director of the Crisis and Recovery Enhancement TA Center. We're thrilled to have you joining us today for this excited, we've been very excited to have this presentation about assisted outpatient therapy, a county panel. Would you please introduce yourselves by placing in the chat box your name and the county that you're from? We were thrilled to see that we have 19 of 58 counties who registered for today's event. That's 33% of the state. Great to have you all here. So welcome to all of you. As I said, my name is Eliana and I'm the director of the CARE TA Center. We're going to go ahead and get started. So this is the disclaimer. We are funded by the Department of Healthcare Services. We hope that what we share here today will land resolutely with our funder, DHCS, and the CARS Center for Applied Research Solutions, where I work. But that said, nothing that we're about to say necessarily does represent anyone else other than ourselves. So today we're going to start off with an overview of the CARE TA Center. Then we're going to have the presentation by our lovely panelists who have established AOT programs across the state. I'm thrilled to share with you that we have counties who are both large urban counties as well as rural counties, smaller county that is here to present today. So we do hope that you'll hear something from everyone will be able to hear something from another county that they actually have something in common with. Then we're going to go ahead and have a discussion with the panelists. So we do welcome everyone to put into the chat box any questions that you have along the way of hearing the panelists present on their individual counties. Then we'll have a chat at the end, the Q&A. So I'm really excited to share with you a little bit about the Crisis and Recovery Enhancement TA Center. We were formed in July 2020, so we are newly funded by MHSA administrative costs to provide training and technical assistance to the MHSA funded county behavioral health programs across the state regarding crisis continuum of care and justice diversion. We're thrilled to be part of a 5-agency collaborative. I mentioned CARS, the Center for Applied Research Solutions. That's where myself, Ayana McGee, and Ruth Santos work. Huge shout out to Ayana, who is our tech manager for today, project manager, and Ruth Santos, who is our project coordinator. We also are thrilled to work with RI International, NAMI, the National Association of Mental Illness California chapter, C4 Innovations, formerly known as the Center for Social Innovation, and the Research Action Center, RAC at Impact Justice, and also the Stanford Sierra Youth and Families. Each one of these partner agencies has expertise in either crisis continuum of care or justice diversion, or sometimes both. Next slide, please. We provide a variety of services from training and technical assistance. If you were to go to our website, we would invite you to fill out a form to request training and technical assistance. This can be anything from access to a resource to more concerted coaching around any aspect of the crisis continuum of care or justice diversion that your county might be engaging in. We provide a variety of services online, from virtual learning events, as well as a resource library on our website, which I'll show you in a moment. We have a quarterly newsletter. We really welcome you to join our newsletter, as well as a variety of other resources like an annual conference that's coming up on June 16th and 17th. So please do visit our website, sign up for our newsletter. That's the best way to stay in contact and informed about everything that we do. So I'm thrilled to share with you, and huge shout out to Ashley Love and her colleagues at DHCS, Jessica Fielding as well. We have a resource library that we are developing rapidly in regard, especially to resources related to AOT. At this point, we have 33 AOT related resources that are available, many of which come from Ashley Love and her team with Jessica Fielding. In addition to our resource library and this panel, we've also been doing what's called cafecitos. These are short conversations with thought leaders in the field. In terms of AOT programs, we have had the benefit of doing short interviews, cafecitos, with 3 counties across the state who have AOT programs. So the cafecitos are short conversations that are recorded and that we then share over our social media accounts and our website. And those cafecitos that are specific to the county AOT programs have been a great place to hear more in depth what's worked, what challenges folks have run into, and what recommendations they have for the field. So the idea of the cafecito is that since we've hit this pandemic and many of us have been working remotely, we're really missing out on that opportunity to have the informal conversation with the colleagues around the proverbial water cooler or the staff lounge at work. And so the idea of the cafecito is an opportunity for us to have an informal conversation with an expert in the field that we then share out. So these are typically between 10 to 30 minutes in length. And we're excited for you to check out the 3 that we have available. We will send them with a link in our follow-up email from this event today. Hot off the presses, we have a new California County Crisis Continuum asset map that is also available on our website. So if you have a question, let's say you're starting up an AOT program and you'd like to know, well, what are other counties who are similar to my county in terms of size, population, perhaps the type of community members who are there, social demographics like race, ethnicity, or language. And I want to find out what other counties who are similar to myself are doing for AOT, I can go to this asset map and I can enter by county name or search by program type. We not only have AOT programs that are listed in this asset map, we have a variety of other programs that are related to crisis continuum care and justice diversion. We really encourage you to go to the asset map, not only to access information about other counties, but to check to see that the information we have about your county is the most up to date. If you go to our website and you go to the bottom of this asset map page, there is a link where you can go to a form to add more information about your county's programs or to update the information that we currently have available. So before we get into today's panelists, I have a couple of questions that I would like to ask you. So we'll bring up the first polling question, please. This is an opportunity to learn a little bit about who is in the audience with us today. Okay, so the first question is, please describe your agency's relationship to AOT. You can choose, we are preparing to establish an AOT program. We have an already existing AOT program, or none of the above. Perhaps you work in a community-based agency and this question is not applicable, or maybe you work for DHCS or another government program. So the results are still coming in. Thank you so much to everyone here. We've got just about hovering around 50%, just a little less, who are preparing to establish an AOT program. 21% have an existing AOT program. Thank you so much. The next question, what do you hope to learn today? And this is a multiple choice, so please select as many options as you would like. Your options are best practices for AOT, how to staff an AOT program, solutions to common AOT challenges, how to run AOT programs during the pandemic, funding for AOT programs, AOT program reporting to the state. This is an important question because, as you're, I'm sure, well aware, in July 2021, the state is shifting. Previously, counties would opt into the AOT program. At this point, starting this July, counties who do not want to have an AOT program have to opt out, and everyone else is going to be starting up AOT programs. People are most interested in best practices for an AOT program at 84%, followed closely at 68% by solutions to common AOT challenges. Fabulous. Well, this is in fact what our panelists are about to share with you. So this is great. This aligns well. If you are starting an AOT program, how prepared do you feel at this stage of planning? There's no right or wrong answers, folks. This is just, we're asking this question to get a sense of what people's experiences might be like out in the audience. And I just want to norm out a little bit. Part of our trauma-informed business practice is to recognize that we're all going through a lot in the last 2 years, from the pandemic to everything else that's happened in society. This is just one more thing that you all are managing. So thank you as well for everything you're already managing and for your honesty here. We've got about 63% who are saying they're not feeling prepared for the AOT program, 35% saying somewhat prepared, and 3% are very prepared. And so our final question is, what best describes you? What best describes you? I work at a county that currently has or will have an AOT program. I work in a community-based organization involved AOT, and I have personal or familial experience with AOT. So if you were to select that second option, then it would be a community-based organization that has some level of involvement with AOT, but perhaps you're not the agency who's running the AOT program. Okay, 94% are working at a county that currently has or will have an AOT program. Outstanding. Well, it is now a really exciting time to hear from the counties. And I just want to take a moment to thank the 4 counties that we have here today: Los Angeles County, Orange County, Ventura County, and Nevada County. They all have had AOT programs for different lengths of time and have generously agreed to share some of their expertise with us in hopes that what they're going to share today will make it a little bit easier for the rest of you to start up your programs. So we're just going to go by alphabetized introductions. So I'm going to invite Alexis and Felicia from Ventura County to introduce themselves and share a little bit with us about their county programs, what's worked, what advice they have for counties who are just starting up, and if time permits, any favorite exemplars of the outcomes of AOT when it has worked really well. So without further ado, Alexis and Felicia, welcome.
Thank you, Eliana, for that nice introduction. So I have questions printed out here. My guess is just kind of go through those. And so Ventura County currently, we're a rural and urban combination. We have a large agriculture component to our county, but we also have an urban component to our county as well. And so it's a good mix of the two. We have currently in our county LPS facility only 36 inpatient beds. And that can be quite challenging for a county the size of ours with roughly 850,000 residents in our county. So that does become quite challenging. We tend to contract with other inpatient units throughout the state, which again, for an AOT program, when you have individuals that are of this acuity, can really be challenging when you're doing the discharge planning and trying to coordinate care for some of our individuals. The demographics of our county, we have about 44% Caucasian, 43% Hispanic, 8% Asian, 2% African American, and 3% other. Our threshold languages are English and Spanish. We also do have indigenous languages as well. And again, for our AOT program, that can prove quite challenging too when you're trying to get interpreter services for those individuals. I'm going to hand over to Alexis to talk about our court component a little bit so she can speak to some of those numbers, and then we'll come back and talk a little bit about some of our challenges as well as successes that we've had with AOT.
All righty, so good afternoon, everyone. My name is Alexis. So to date, we've served 264 clients since 2016. That is 238 unduplicated. And so just to break it down between the clients that go through kind of our voluntary portion of AOT versus those who are court involved, we do have about like 73% that are voluntary AOT clients and 27 that are court involved. And this further breaks down with our court involved folks with 88% court ordered and 12% that do a settlement agreement. And in terms of staffing, we have 12 staff, and that consists of a psychiatrist, a clinician, a nurse. We have 4 community service coordinators, mental health associates, and we have an office assistant, a team lead, and our AOT supervisor. So we do try to model that AOT client to staff ratio. And then just to give you some background information, we are grantees with the SAMHSA grant from 2016 to 2020. So I'm going to hand it off to Felicia for the next question.
Get myself off of mute here. So as Alexis said, we established our program through a SAMHSA grant, and that was really helpful in terms of startup. Anytime that you're trying to start up a new program, it's always nice to have adequate funding to do so. And so by having that SAMHSA grant, that really helped us get things off the ground. Originally, when we started up our AOT program, we were contracting out our services initially. And so the way we were functioning was the referral piece of it and the initial outreach and engagement was done in-house through Ventura County Behavioral Health. And part of another program that I oversee that is an outreach and engagement program, we thought that would be a nice fit because these were already people who were field-based and experienced in going out into the communities and looking for people. And as you know, the folks who qualify for AOT are those individuals that are really difficult to engage. And so the county felt as though we already have this program that really does a good job of getting out there in the community and looking for folks and establish relationships with law enforcement to find some of these people that sometimes are not so easy to find. We had our intake portion as part of our RISE program, and that is our outreach and engagement program. And after about a year of contracting with a provider, we found that wasn't working out so good. We were having difficulties getting the numbers that we wanted in terms of enrollments, petitioning for the court order piece, just things were not flowing as smoothly as we had hoped. And so after about a year, we decided to bring the program in-house. And in doing so, and Alexis can speak to specific numbers, but we saw our enrollment numbers go up significantly. Our court-involved people, those numbers went up significantly, and we were starting to see some actual outcomes. We had some individuals graduate and move on to the more traditional mental health clinics within our county. I can say the benefit definitely was bringing it in-house to be able to follow the clients all the way through the process. Some of the things that make it a little trickier, we went and visited a few other counties that had AOT for a while. And what we found was that those counties that had dedicated court staff, dedicated public defenders, judge, so on and so forth, it really took a more holistic approach in terms of the team and really working together. We've struggled a little bit not having that full-time dedicated legal component in terms of our public defender and courts, but the partners that we do have been really good partners to work with. It's just, we can see the advantage of having a full-time dedicated public defender just specific to AOT, how that would be much more beneficial for some of our folks to get them through the process and out, successful outcomes quicker than what we've seen with some of our individuals. I think probably one of the strongest pieces is having that outreach and that expertise in the outreach and being able to go out into the communities and work with these individuals out in the field has really been beneficial. And the importance of being able to do that is huge to have success in that program. And I think that would cover it, unless Alexis would like to add anything else. I know we're trying to keep it brief for each county.
Just really quickly, something that's been really helpful is establishing a data protocol and procedures binder for our team. So since we're a SAMHSA grantee, there are kind of requirements like the NOMs, if you're familiar, and then also having our requirements as a county agency, the forms that we collect. So just outlining all the assessments that are given to clients, what's required, the timelines that are associated with them, and also just having a data protocol so everything is in one place and staff know where to go and have all the assessments lined up for them too. That's been really helpful.
Thank you so much, Felicia and Alexis. That was a terrific way to get us started off here. We really appreciate the time that you took to describe to us a little bit about your county, what has really worked well, what challenges you've run into. And we're excited to hear next from Chi from Orange County. Chi, would you please go ahead?
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Chi Lam, and I am program manager for our adult and older adult behavioral health services. I'm happy to be here. Orange County is considered a large county, and we have about 3.2 million people living in Orange County. We do have a variety of the demographics, primarily are Caucasians, second followed by 30% Hispanic and 20% Asian, with 1% Black or African American. Most of the languages that are foreign languages outside of the primary language, we would have 24% Spanish speaking, and third would be 6% in Vietnamese. So we have a large population of Vietnamese outside of Vietnam. When it comes to our behavioral health services as a whole, though, we do have a continuum of services that are available for those who have behavioral health needs. We have services that includes inpatient services. Outside of that, we also have crisis services. We also have intensive outpatient programs. In addition to outpatient programs, we have residential treatment to address the substance use issues, in addition to other supportive services like housing or other ancillary services like wellness centers, etc. So I think because of the services that we have with our AOT program, which we started back in October of 2014, we were able to develop a program that really addressed and involved the community input. In Orange County, it's driven by the community. When it was first came about, our mental health board and the steering committee for MHSA really did advocate for it, and the community really advocated to have an AOT program. The board supported it and eventually was able to adopt for the program, and so we began it back in 2014. When we started back in 2014, we actually have two components for our AOT program. We have a county team and also an AOT FSP team. The AOT county team that we have provides assessment and linkage to go and get referrals from the community and be able to have questions that the community might have. We developed a central kind of like an 800 number to be able to filter in when we first rolled out and implemented that. I think it helped because there was a lot of questions about AOT. What is it? What is it about? Who can refer? And so definitely that helped along the way. Our AOT county team, they followed up with referrals. We have a component made up of a multidisciplinary team. We have psychologists who are part of that team, in addition to mental health specialists and clinicians. The goal of our county team is to be able to get the referral, to be able to then go out and outreach and also engage individuals and offer them actually voluntary services first. And so if they're able to engage, and if we're successful to engage that member, we actually don't connect them to our court-involved AOT yet. We might link them to another FSP program, or we might link them to a county outpatient program that's already existing. But if a client chooses and they are not interested and they're still refusing, that's when we are able to then make a referral to our psychologists in our county team and then have them evaluate and proceed with the court process. If a client then gets court ordered into AOT, that's when we will link them to our AOT FSP programs, and the FSP program will provide the whatever it takes kind of a model, does follow the ACT model. The AOT FSP also has a lower racial caseload in Orange County. In comparison to other FSP programs that we have, our ratio for AOT FSP is 1 to 10. So our clients, 10 clients to 1 case manager. The AOT FSP program has also a multidisciplinary It's helpful for them to be able to have prescribers, they have LVNs, they have case managers, they have clinicians, other specialists like benefit specialists to help members with benefits, housing specialists to help them to get housing, educational and vocational specialists to help support that piece for members who are willing and wanting to have education or vocation as part of their treatment plan. All of our county team and our AOT FSP, we do work very collaboratively with our collaborative partners, which includes our judge and the court team, in addition to our public defender. We actually also have county counsel to represent and to support that process. And so it's a combination of just that collaborative partnership. I think that's been helpful for our program. Just wanted to also provide some numbers. I think that some people are interested in that. Since we have started back in 2014 through June of 2020, we have about 3,103 total calls. So those are the referrals that come into the county in the 6.5 years that we've been have AOT program. Of those, we actually were able to link through our county AOT team 28% of those referrals to voluntary services. So they didn't have to go through the court route. However, we have 185, so that accounts for about 6% of those referrals that we have received that actually proceeded with a court-involved process. So not a lot, but I think that we were successful to link clients outside of the AOT court route process. On top of that, for our AOT FSP court-involved programs, for fiscal year 18-19, we were able to serve 53 total court-involved members throughout the AOT FSP program. The breakdown between the members served during that whole fiscal year is about 83% are settle agreement and 17% that were actually court ordered. And with our AOT FSP program, they are able to not serve the court-ordered clients. In addition to that, we actually, in their contract, they can serve clients who are transitioning and graduated from the court route for continuity of care, that they serve the clients who are willing to stay on and participate in the services voluntarily. So we don't link them to other services, but the program, AOT FSP program that we have serves both that. On top of the court-ordered clients and on top of being able to provide the voluntary services for those who graduated from the court route, but we actually also open up the AOT FSP program to serve clients who are actually at risk of being in AOT. Those are typically clients that have maybe not have been successful in other FSP program or maybe outpatient program. And so we feel that they really would benefit from having this FSP that provides the lower caseload, have more field-based, have prescribers and staff that are specialized trained, and through this process be able to really address the needs of the client. And hopefully through the services, they won't be become court route. And so we've been able to do that and expand some of the services that they're able to provide in our AOT FSP program. Highlighting some of the successes in our county would be, again, the dedicated team and staff to support the AOT program. I mentioned about the AOT county team. In addition to our AOT FSP team, we have dedicated public defender who works with our county team and the AOT FSP, and we have a dedicated judge who supports the program and supportive of the members and very understanding of mental illness and the challenges of that. He is very positive. He encourages our members and really does work with the team to support the client. And so that really is very helpful on that end. In Orange County, another success that we have is the AOT FSP program, they were able to find a location about 3 years ago where it's actually directly across from the courthouse. And so we were very fortunate to have that because our judge actually comes over to the AOT FSP program and have hearings there once a month. Outside of that, the judge, he brings his whole team over to our AOT FSP and sometimes have graduations there. And be able, so for us, I think just being able to be near the courthouse and having dedicated teams really has been one of the successes in our county to be able to kind of help our members. Outside of that, I think just collaboration amongst the team. We have weekly staffing with the collaborative team to talk about the cases and the members. On top of that, we also have pre-meetings with the judge before the actual hearings to be able to support that collaboration and bring up maybe issues or concerns or challenges for any of the individual case. And then the judge during the hearing would be able to support our members and encourage the member. We call it kind of that black rope effect sometimes. And so it really has been helpful for our teams. Some of the challenges I think in our program is because we do have different partners and collaborative partners, sometimes there might be differences kind of in opinions. And so just different roles and just recognizing that and working together to be able to support our members and recognizing the different kind of interests that different partners would have. And I think just being able to work together and overcoming those kind of differences in opinions really has helped. And we've been able to do that in Orange County. I think addressing the community misinformation has also been helpful because I think sometimes family members or maybe the community might have different expectation of what we can do as a program. We do work with the community to help to educate. We partner with other programs such as the NAMI or maybe our conservative kind of different support groups to help to educate. I think some of the misinformation is sometimes family members or community maybe feel that, you know, we can force our clients to take meds and we really aren't able to, or even, you know, conserving them. Because they feel like, you know, the client needs to be hospitalized so then they can be concerned. So I think that there's a lot of education and ongoing education in the community and developing a process to be able to do so and information that can be handed out, doing outreach, you know, developing different working relationship to be able to educate is definitely has been helpful. Any like flyers, developing those note cards or anything like that to be able to help with that effort has been successful in that sense and overcoming those challenges. And I think another challenge, I think just in general is just our clients. We have a variety of services that I mentioned earlier within our behavioral health services. But a lot of our clients sometimes are just not wanting those services. So I think the challenge is not about not having the services as much, but being able to engage our members and not giving up and continuing to support them, continue to follow up, continue to kind of just be that broken record, continue to have follow up. We have a lot of peers in our programs to support our members. We have prescribers who actually does field work and go out with the peers to engage our members. That has also been helpful to kind of address kind of the ambivalence and maybe just the client's resistance to some of the services that we offer, such as housing or maybe co-occurring SUD services that we have available, and we're trying to connect them and link them. So I think it's addressing, working on just how we can engage our members and be able to make it accessible, make it as easy and simple for our members. And I think just not giving up and being able to just persist and continue, even if our clients sometimes might get closed out because they're unable to be located, but we continue to be there. And if they live in Orange County, most likely they will be referred again. We will have contact with them. We work closely also with the hospitals and the jails to be able to make referrals for our AOT. And so a lot of the times for clients who maybe have not graduated from the court order route, but if they're get referred again, then we will have our next opportunity to be able to engage them. And for us, AOT really allows Orange County to have treat a different treatment option for family members on top of the services that we have already in existence. But I think it allows that additional option, additional treatment to be able to get client to have access to services. So we're excited to continue to be able to offer that. I don't know how I'm doing on time, but I'll pause there, and you can let me know if I should continue or not.
Chi, this is so exciting. Thank you. You and Alexis and Felicia have shared such incredible information. It's clear the systems approach that you've been taking is really a highlight. Talking about working with the hospitals and jails and the referral processes, but also the really creative work that you're doing out in the field to address the misinformation and to create informational pathways that has accurate information. We're so excited to hear more. At this point, I'm going to move over and invite Heather to share with us about her county, please. And we'll definitely come back in the end to do Q&A with everyone as well.
Thank you. And I love hearing about the other counties and what you guys are doing. I'm really resonating with a lot of what you're talking about, even though Nevada County is an extremely rural county. My name is Heather Vance. I actually work with Turning Point Community Programs, and we are contracted through Nevada County Behavioral Health to run our AOT program. We actually have an ACT program, and that's how we run our AOT program. But I wanted to start out and talking about Nevada County. We are extremely rural. We have we're kind of a very widespread county. So we have Eastern County, which is actually Truckee, and the rest of our county, which is the Western County. So Truckee is kind of its own little island up there as far as being part of Nevada County. They do have a medical hospital there, and we have one medical hospital and emergency room in the Western County area. We have no psychiatric hospitals. Our county contracts with 2 neighboring-ish counties for total of 2 beds in psychiatric hospitals. So that's always kind of a challenge. We do have a 4-bed crisis stabilization unit in our county that we're really fortunate to have. And we have a respite house that has 4 beds that we're also fortunate to have. And we have one mental health licensed home that's it's technically board and care, but not board and care. It's more transitional housing where people can be there up to a maximum of 18 months, and that has 10 beds. So that's kind of our overview of what's available for those kinds of psychiatric services. We have about 100,000 people in our population. Our population that's over 65 is about 27%. So we have a large population of people that are nearing or at retirement age. Our population is 94% white, 10% Hispanic or Latino, 1% Asian, 1% African American, 1% American Indian and Alaskan, and 1% other. So very, very white community, mainly English speaking, obviously. As far as our AOT program goes, Nevada County's AOT program, as most of you guys probably know, was the first AOT program in the state of California to get started. So we started in 2009. We've received to date 189 referrals, and we've had 86 court orders for AOT. And that's a combination of the orders and the settlement agreements. 54% of all of our referrals have voluntarily engaged in our ACT services. So 46%-ish have had to go through the court process. The census for our ACT program, of course, I got kicked off right in the middle there.
Thank you.
So I was talking about our staffing, and we also, like Chi was saying, our ratio is 1 to 10. So all of our case managers will never have more than 10 people in their caseload, and that's between ACT and AOT participants. We also have a KDAC specialist, so substance use counselor on staff. we have a nurse, we have a psychiatrist, we have clinical director, program director is me, we have therapists, a therapist. We have other people qualified to do therapy, but we have 2 team leaders, one of which is a housing specialist. We have an admin coordinator that takes care of kind of all of the office needs, a front desk person, and we have some medication outreach staff, 3. They're not all full-time, they're part-time. So we have all in all about 21 people employed for our ACT program, which also serves our AOT folks. Most helpful for our success, the things that we have found and just to put it out there, I've been with this program from the very first moment we opened our doors in 2008. We opened our ACT program, and then in 2009 was able to get the AOT program going. Back at that time, I was a service coordinator. I did not have my master's degree yet. So in time, I have done some work and gotten to this place where I'm a licensed clinical social worker and program director. So I've been through kind of all of the gamut of watching AOT come into place in our county, involved in working. I was the service coordinator for the first person that ever went through AOT in our county. So I've been involved in a lot of it. So the things that we've noticed in time that helped with our success, definitely having more than one licensed clinician on staff to support the AOT process. I find the AOT referrals come in waves for us. And there's times like in the last 2 weeks, I've gotten 4 referrals all at once. And then there's times where you don't get any for 2 or 3 months. And I don't know if that's other people's experience, but it's definitely helpful to have more than one licensed clinician that's able to support AOT. The ACT model program is obviously a big deal for us to support AOT. We find that AOT just slides right into what we're already doing in our ACT program. I've heard all of our other wonderful ladies talk about collaboration with the community partners throughout all disciplines. Huge, huge, huge. I mean, we couldn't do this without the collaboration. We have great relationships with our community partners, and it's the only way we can do this. Family engagement is definitely super helpful when it's allowed by the participant. We've certainly had people that did not want their families involved, and that can be difficult. So it's wonderful when we're able to involve families and support the families with family team meetings, family therapy, psychoeducation, connect them with support through NAMI. And we have at times also when we've had not during COVID, and when we've had a need for it, we've had a really robust family support group that has been super beneficial, especially for families that have loved ones in AOT. We have our medication outreach services has been huge because we go morning and night every day of the week to bring meds to people and observe them take their own meds. It's been a huge service for people to keep them in the community and safe and stable. Another thing is the long-acting injections. The long-acting injections have been a godsend for some of our AOT, a lot of our AOT participants. And our doctor and nurse are wonderful at educating people about those and trying to help break the stigma and the scare around the whole shot thing. It's a miracle medication, and I've seen it do wonders for people. Our court team, I'm sorry for the folks that don't have great court teams, but the court team is so essential. I love that our court team even includes our bailiff. Our bailiff, his name's Gaylord. He will go out in the hallway and introduce himself to people, and he's so kind and respectful and warm and welcoming. When people are having a hard time and struggling with their symptoms out there, he goes and he tries to calm people down, and he is just amazing, and he remembers everybody's name. And then of course, all the way on up to the judge. We're really lucky that we've had Judge Tom Anderson from the very beginning. We also now have a per tem judge that we've used on occasion who's gotten to know AOT really well too. So we're lucky now that we have 2, because I know Judge Anderson would like to retire at some point. So I feel like we're kind of in the process of preparing for that. But the whole court team has been wonderful, and we do have a dedicated public defender to our team, and that has been super helpful. The data collection, that was part of the questioning in here. A lot of the data we use that is required by the state for AOT comes from the data we're already collecting for Mental Health Services Act for California. So it's really not that difficult to make sure we have the data that's necessary for the AOT data reporting. Another success that we've had is one of my graduates from the program, that is a huge miracle success. He actually requested to be a mentor to other people going through the program. So I call him our AOT mentor, and he just volunteers his time to do that because it started when he saw a young man that was new to the program struggling, and he really wanted to help him and talk to him. So that has been a wonderful addition to our program as of recently as well. The challenges, I also heard some of the other ladies say the same challenges, keeping the education going regularly and really making sure that community partners, particularly law enforcement, there's a lot of overturn in law enforcement officers, but really making sure to do the regular education every year to keep it up, because all positions overturn in all departments, and it's hard to keep bumping up against the I don't know what AOT is. So the regular education is something that we need to get back on track doing. Another challenge I would say would be in the beginning, one of the challenges when we had private defense attorneys that would come on, and still occasionally we'll have people hire their own attorneys and not use the public defender. Sometimes that can be a challenge. Most of the time we find that those private defense attorneys don't understand AOT at all or mental illness. So that's been something that's been challenging, but it doesn't happen all that often, and it's obviously something that we can handle. Advice for people that are planning to start AOT programs, I would advise you to use what you already have. And I heard some of our other gals mention that you already have existing programs that are already doing some of this work. So use what you already have. Definitely use your FSPs and an ACT if you have an ACT program, it's easy to use the ACT program. Find a judge that will be on board for this. That's a big piece. Any judge that does mental health court or adult drug court or any other alternative courts is a good person to go to first. Collaboration, and don't reinvent the wheel. That would be my advice.
Outstanding, Heather. Thank you so much. I'm so glad that you were able to reconnect through Zoom. That was like, there were gems and pearls throughout your entire presentation, but especially at the end there. Oh my gosh, what suggestions of things to do. Love this. Thank you so much. Thank you. And last but certainly not least, the dear Linda Boyd. Linda, welcome. Thank you so much for being the final county to present from Los Angeles.
Good afternoon. How are you? So I can make my presentation really short and sweet. Ditto. Everything everyone has already said is absolutely true for LA County as well. We are a county of, well, in 2019, we had 10 million people, and I looked it up this morning so I could be accurate. And right now we have 9.8 million. So for those of you who think that LA County is la la land, be careful, because some of our folks are coming to you. We have 88 cities plus the unincorporated areas. We're already the most populated county in not only in California, but in the United States, which was sort of interesting to me. We are 48% white, 11% African American, 0.8% Native American, 10% Asian, 3.3% Pacific Islander, 23% other races, 4.9% two or more races, and 44.6% identify Hispanic, Latino. So when I added this all up, I was really excited because we are for sure a majority minority county. And so we have a large Armenian population. Long Beach, the city of Long Beach has the largest Cambodian population outside of Cambodia. We have 13 threshold languages. And so lots and lots and lots of diversity. We started our AOT program in May 1st, 2015. So our stats are very, very similar to Orange County. And we've had 3,166 referrals since our inception. We accepted over 2,000 referrals. 71% of our enrollees are voluntary. We've had 198 petitions, most of which are also voluntary settlement agreements. So 29% are petitioned and 71% of our folks are voluntary. We are MHSA funded. The other thing is that we, like some of the other counties, are the outreach and engagement piece is done by county staff, directly operated DMH staff. Mental health is called Department of Mental Health in our county. I know in others it's called behavioral health. So we do the outreach and engagement. We have 16 full service AOT full service partnerships that we refer to. Not to make people feel badly, but we have 46 designated facilities in LA County. So we do have crisis, we have PMRT services, we have co-response, law enforcement, mental health, crisis response teams. We do have a plethora of services in LA County. And for all of you who already have AOT and who've already spoken, you already know sometimes that doesn't amount to a hill of beans with our clients. I'm thinking because people have said mostly some of the same things that I was going to say. I think the collaboration with the court is incredibly, incredibly important. And we were lucky from the beginning. For the first 5 years, we had a dedicated public defender who believed in treatment. We all worked collaboratively to get the client exactly what the client needed. And, you know, it's probably blasphemy to say it may not always have been what the client wanted. But it did improve for the folks who were successful and for whom the Black Robe Effect worked. It did provide for them a better quality of life. And they have, those folks who have been successful have uniformly come back and talked about how thankful they are and how much it meant to them to be a part of AOT. The court collaboration is, in terms of court-ordered folks, is everything. And when you don't have it, because now we're having a little transfer of, we've had the judges, we moved on to a pre-retirement job. Our public defender has retired. And so we're going through some transitions in the court for ourselves right now. So, so for those 9.8 million people, I have 10 outreach staff, 1 psychologist, 2 supervisors, a part-time psychiatrist, an FSP coordinator, 2 clerks, and a staff assistant. So really 13 staff doing outreach for 3,100, over 3,100 referrals. So some of you have more staff than we do, and I greatly envy you your positions. When I was looking at what was most helpful and what worked, I really, a lot of you have been looking at the forest. I sort of started looking at the trees. And I think everyone's talked about court collaboration. Everybody working toward a common goal in the court is extremely important. We also meet with the judge prior to court and go over all of the cases, what we would like the court to praise the candidate or the client for. And it, again, like everyone else has said, it is a very, very, very supportive, even with the new regime, a very, very supportive court. We are really there, and court is really there to do whatever is necessary to help that person succeed. And I think that collaboration is what matters the most, and everyone else has talked about that as well. One of the other things that we do, we do institute 5346 Ds and Fs, and those are the ability through AOT that allows you to hospitalize clients. And even though the F does not require that it go through the court system, in the very beginning, we did have our, and we still do, but it was decided when we started AOT, and I was the first program manager and remain the program manager since its inception. It was started with the stakeholders process. In 2014, the department started a stakeholder process. So like Orange County and some of the other counties, it was community driven. But then once we took over, one of the things we had talked about, and I don't know if other counties are having the same issues, but for us, sometimes even with our 5150s, having law enforcement assist has been an issue. It is particularly trying, even especially, it was trying before, but particularly trying since the murder of George Floyd. And I don't know if that's happened in other counties as well. One of the things we did is we put the 5346 F into the court process. The judge orders the F. We worked with the with our co-response lieutenants with the Sheriff's Department and with LAPD. We have co-response teams with them. And we worked with the lieutenants of each of those overseeing those co-response teams to come up with verbiage that it would allow law enforcement to even take someone by the arm to help them to get on a gurney. Because most of the time, at least in LA County, police stand back and they won't help at all. And everybody has to walk away when someone is at risk to themselves or to someone else or greatly disabled. So we do have in that court order a provision that officers can use reasonably objective force, which doesn't mean that they can use extreme force or that they can bang down doors or they can do any of those things that people get frightened about. But it does allow them to put their hand on the person's arm to lead them to the gurney. That has helped. That's one of the things that has been helpful. Our collaboration between the Department of Mental Health and our contract providers, we have 16 AOT FSPs. They are all contracted. In July, our department is revamping our whole system of care around full service partnerships. And so we will be integrating more with the directly operated and with our contract providers. So some of the AOT providers will be directly operated. So I'm anxious, particularly given what Ventura and Orange County have talked about in terms of having Ventura make it all directly operated, that they've been even more successful. So I'm really looking forward to that. Some of our greatest challenges, when I looked at that question, I focused it more on the clients themselves as opposed to the system. And I think for the, and this is sort of system related. So some of the most challenging issues that we have are if a client is co-occurring, and about 80% of our clients are co-occurring. If the addiction is so strong that it's almost primary, their mental illness is still primary, but their addiction is so strong, we tend to not be really successful with many of those folks, even with our petitioned clients, because the addiction is just so strong they can't stop. Our judge will order drug treatment. And for folks who respect the Black robe, they feel like we've had some clients who said, oh, the judge says I have to go, I'll go. Because we know that drug treatment is voluntary in California. And they do go, and they've been extremely successful. For other folks who say, I don't care what you say, I'm not going, we have not been as successful. One of the other issues that we have is that, majority of our clients don't believe they have a mental illness. And so there was a time we could bring someone back to court every week just to give them some support and to let them know that that this is serious, even though it's extremely supportive. It's about how can we help you? The judge would say to every single person, tell me something good. Tell me something good that's happening for you today. And we've had clients who have, we had a client who was an artist. I'm in Massachusetts, an artist for the rest of you, an artist who painted this gorgeous picture for the judge. She had it framed, hung it in the court. We've had clients who were rappers who would bring their music in and play it for the judge. So really the court tries to be extremely supportive. Even with that, for folks who don't believe they have a mental illness, then it doesn't always work. So I think, and then the other problem we have is we have some folks who have private insurance, and private insurance doesn't pay for full service partnerships. And so getting those, we can't mandate those folks to treatment because we can't mandate something that we cannot guarantee that they can get. So I think for people starting out AOT programs, I think it's going to be incumbent upon your county about what you're going to do to deal with private insurance, because that can be something that can create a barrier to services and treatment. The other group of folks that we have some issues with are folks that we outreach to who are refusing all services and they're not deteriorating. So we can't get them to sign in voluntarily, and because they're not deteriorating, we're not able to petition them into treatment. Our other judge was a little more lenient about definition of deterioration. This judge wants to know exactly how they're deteriorating and what's happening for them. And so if they're not deteriorating, we cannot petition those folks. We do have a part-time psychiatrist who comes in the field and will prescribe medication. That has been invaluable. It really has made a huge difference. He's also available to consult on cases to help with diagnosis and other things. Our public defender was a dedicated public defender. Our new public defender has other responsibilities, but she does. Our other public defender did go in the field to see clients all the time. This public defender also goes out into the field to talk to clients. So if they are petitioned, sometimes we've had to petition in absentia now, where we didn't have to do that as much with the prior judge and public defender. But with this public defender, there's a very, very strict interpretation of D3. And so someone not coming to court, not submitting to anything, if they've talked to us and we've been able to give a cursory examination, we can't get a D3 order, where we could in the past. And so that would allow us to have folks go to the hospital. The hospital would bring them in for hearings. Almost all of our hearings were in person. And I think if you can do the hearings in person, it makes a great deal of difference. For folks who don't believe they have a mental illness, and then you're having the hearing in absentia, which the statute allows for, but you're having that hearing in absentia, that client never believes that they're court ordered. And so getting them to comply with treatment is very, very difficult. I'm trying to think of what else we can, UCLA did a 3-year evaluation of AOT and of our AOT program, both our outreach and engagement, as well as our full service partnerships. And at the beginning of that, they established tools for the outreach and engagement piece, as well as the full service partnership piece of AOT. And our providers, our full service partnership providers, fill those out on a monthly basis. And they send them in, we put them into a database. And that is part of what we use in completing the state survey tool. So any kind of tool that you can create that will help full service partnerships give you the kind of data that the state requires is extremely helpful in putting together, because we all perseverate over the report, and Ashley and Jessica know that. They are the gurus And we question them constantly about it. So anything that you can put in place for your general data collecting that then makes the reporting easier, means a little less dye you have to use on your hair, and gives you a few more years of life expectancy, because it reduces the stress. And I think pretty much everybody is covered. It's sort of interesting. I think the thing that sort of, we have a statewide AOT call every quarter. And the thing that amazes me, I guess it doesn't amaze me, but it sort of amazes me, is that whether it's Nevada County with 100,000 people or LA County with 10 million people, the issues we have tend to be very, very similar among all of the counties. The challenges tend to be very similar. The successes tend to be very similar. Some of us are more fortunate to have more resources, but the issues and the problems tend to be very, very similar across all of the counties in California. And the way we approach things seems to be pretty similar as well. We have different, there are some different approaches, but the philosophical approaches and what we all hope to accomplish is really, really similar. And I think kudos to all of the, particularly the outreach staff that get folks engaged to begin with. I think my staff are client whisperers. I think probably all of you feel like your staff's client whisperers. And then we hand them over to the full service partnerships who have to continue with that whispering. Family involvement is everything. And when UCLA did the evaluation, they found that clients who had family and who had family involvement tended to be much more successful. Even with the confidentiality regulations that are in place. The education to the community is extremely important. I tell people all the time, AOT is not conservatorship light. Most of the referrals, people talk about, that their person needs to be in a facility, and telling them there is no involuntary facilities, there is no locked facilities, there is no mandated medication. The constant education of community law enforcement, jails. We don't get as many referrals from jails as some of the other counties do. Not quite sure why. We've been there several times to do trainings and stuff with them. Most of our referrals come from mental health providers, and then from families. Then from residential facilities. About 8 or 10% come directly from law enforcement. And so I think that's about everything from me. So thank you very much.
Oh, Linda, thank you so much. I speak in such appreciative terms about you always, Linda, and by golly, you deliver. I really, that there was so much in what you shared that rang true for a county who has been at this and consistently and assertively. And I was noticing that your other panelists are frequently nodding their heads in recognition about many of the things that you were sharing. Thank you so much for that. And so for the audience, I want to give us a heads up that we're going to now move into some Q&A period. So if there's a question that you would like to ask the panelists, please do go ahead and put it into the chat box. Thank you in advance to Ayana McGee, who has been putting these questions in, collecting them for us. So the first question is, and this is for any panelist, if you feel moved to answer it, just feel free to jump on in. The first question is, what are the mechanisms for voluntary AOT and how are they different from court ordered?
This is Heather from Nevada County. Voluntary services, the other ladies had spoke about this in their programs as well, or their counties, is really doing that outreach and engagement with someone when we get a referral for AOT. We get a referral, and we always offer voluntary services first. So that piece, what did Linda call her people? The something whispers. Um, that is the magic, is when, and I find it to be programs that allow their staff to go out to the field and go to the person's home, meet somebody for coffee, meet them where they're at, help them to feel more comfortable, and give some time to trying to engage that person, figuring out what their needs are, where they're coming from, who they are, and just build some rapport. So the outreach and engagement piece is the difference in someone volunteering for services, even if it's just barely like, okay, sure, I'll come meet that doctor, but I'm not going to take any meds. Any little bit of engagement is, we grasp onto that and we take it. The court ordered process obviously is when someone isn't willing to participate voluntarily. And so then we would move forward with that process. The services that that person receives in our county, at least, are exactly the same, minus going to court. So the person in AOT is attending court regularly to provide updates to the court and check in. But other than that, the services are all exactly the same as if they were participating voluntarily.
Thank you so much, Heather. And that actually ended up answering parts of other questions that people have posed. So another question is, and I should have shared this before, if questions are asked that really would be most appropriate for DHCS to answer, because the CARE TA Center, we're funded through MHSA, but we are not DHCS. So any questions that might be asked that would be best fielded by DHCS, we will share them with DHCS and invite them to share a response back that will then, of course, share with the field. So I should have said that from the beginning. But the next question is, which counties are going to opt in this year? And might they be willing to share their training plan draft so other counties can glean from this? This is a great question and totally makes sense as well. I know we've received TA requests from the field also around the education plan. So what I would proffer to do is that if any counties would like to share their education plan with one another, please do let us know. You can put your name in the chat box here, or you can follow up with an email. And this question we will also share out with DHCS to see if they have other counties that they know of who would like to share their training plans. Thank you so much for that question. We've got another question here that is Heather from Turning Point in Nevada County. Keeps reiterating, keeping up the education. What education is she referencing in particular? Topics, facilitator, etc. And also, I didn't catch the medication she stated was found to be vital. Can she restate that medication? Was it an MAT or an antipsychotic?
Oh yeah, the education I'm talking about is just the overview of what AOT is, what the criteria is, how do people refer, that kind of education to keep that up going in the community partners so that people understand. Also, as in addition to that, the different order, like, because the judge can order law enforcement to pick somebody up and take them to the hospital for a psychiatric evaluation. And so that's a big piece that we need law enforcement to be educated on that regularly as they go through different staffing. To understand that that's something that can happen with this process. I was referring to a long-acting injection, or an LAI, and that's an antipsychotic medication.
The next question is for Linda Boyd. Linda, the question is, would you be willing to share LA County's training curricula? This is in reference to the training that you mentioned having provided to the jails about AOT.
Sure. I mean, it's not really a curricula. It's the same as Heather just mentioned. We talk about what AOT is, the benefits of AOT, how to refer. And for us, you can just Google AOT LA and our referral form pops up. And so it really is the same training we provide to NAMI, to the community at large, to hospitals, to mental health providers, to anyone about who can refer to AOT and what the AOT program consists of, how to refer, and then what to expect once the person is referred to AOT. The other thing I noticed in the chat room, someone asked a question about voluntary agreements and how that's different from voluntary clients. And so if I could just take a second to address that.
Yes, please.
So voluntary settlement, once someone is petitioned, and this is true for all AOT, for the California AOT programs, once someone is petitioned, either when they get for LA County, either when they get to court, or sometimes the public defender can go out once they're petitioned, but before their hearing, and talk to the client. And so let's say the client comes into court, and this is pre-COVID because people aren't in the hallway right now due to COVID. Most of our hearings are WebEx, but if a client does want to come to court, they do. They can come to court. And I am in court every week, and our psychologist who does most of our testifying is in court every week. Once the client comes into court, let's say, the public defender goes out and talks to them and asks them if they would like to sign voluntarily into AOT. So it's sort of quasi-voluntary. So if the client says, yes, I will sign, that's a settlement agreement. And that means they're still under the court purview. However, they don't have to have a hearing. And so clients can say to us till the cows come home. And for most folks who have AOT who are on this call, they know client says to us, pound sand. And that's the nicest thing the client says to us. They get to court, the public defender talks to them, and they look at us like, can't you take a joke? And they sign the settlement agreement. So they're still under the court's purview. The progress reports that have to be presented to court, the periodic visits that they make to the court, those all happen, but they don't have to have a hearing. If they say, no, I'm not signing that, there is a hearing where our county counsel asks, the psychologist gets sworn in, they ask the 9 criteria, the public defender gets to cross-examine. If the client wants to testify, the client gets sworn in, public defender asks questions, county counsel gets to cross-examine. It is a regular hearing. So in lieu of that, they can sign a settlement agreement, but they're still under the court purview. And you all know AOT is in 6-month increments. We've had folks sometimes for 2 years in AOT because they just haven't fulfilled all of their treatment goals. Often they will sign a settlement agreement after their first 6 months.
Thank you, Linda. That was exceptional. And I know there are several additional questions, some of which Ayana is responding to in the chat box. Thank you very much for that, Ayana. We will definitely find answers to the extent that we are able and send them out to you in a follow-up email. So you'll have at least 2 follow-up emails coming your way. At this point in time, I'm going to need to move us over to invite Jessica Fielding, Section Chief of the Prevention and Family Services section, to share with us another upcoming event where you can learn more about AOT. Jessica.
Hi, everyone, and what a great conversation today. As Eliana mentioned, my name is Jessica, and I am the Section Chief of the Prevention and Family Services section. Today, joining me is Ashley Love and Mia Manick, which both serve as the lead analysts of the AOT legislative report and program oversight as well. Our section specifically is responsible for reporting to the legislature on the benefit of having the AOT program. In addition to that, we are really serving as the forerunners in AB 1976 coming to effect July 1st. Tomorrow, we actually have a webinar from 10 to 12 p.m., and it is regarding AB 1976, implementation and reporting requirements of the Assisted Outpatient Treatment Program. This is a closed webinar, but we are inviting, it is open to county staff members, so it is closed to providers, but it is open to county staff. We have emailed all of the behavioral health directors and administrators. If you are a county employee and have not received an invitation, you're more than welcome to email us at dhcsaot@dhcs.ca.gov. And I think one of my team members may be able to put that in the chat box. In addition to that, if your county is in need of individualized training or technical assistance in regards to the assisted outpatient treatment, again, also known as Laura's Law, please feel free to send us an email and we can set up a time where we can meet with your county representatives and chat about AB 1976 and Laura's Law as well. Again, the webinar is from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. tomorrow, and the goal is discussing AB 1976, the rollout, and then reporting requirements. As an FYI, if you are in Laura's Law, you are required to submit a survey back to the department. And it was really great to hear and see so many different faces of those that are actively participating in Laura's Law. So thanks so much to Eliana and team.
Thank you, Jessica. Really appreciate that heads up. And I just want to stop and take a moment to give a huge thank you to all of our panelists today. This has really been better than I possibly could have imagined. And I know that based on the questions that people have been placing in the chat box, that the wisdom and the expertise that you've shared with us today has been extremely helpful to the field. So virtual round of applause to all of our presenters today. Thank you all so very much, Heather, Chi, Felicia, Alexis, Linda. You have been phenomenal. So we just want to thank all of the attendees who have joined us today. We have several upcoming trainings that we do hope that you will join us for. This month, especially in April, we have a very packed agenda. We've got trauma-informed care services, HIPAA, ethics and professional boundaries, self-care and compassion fatigue. All of these topics are related to the crisis continuum of care and justice diversion are going to be presented by our partner, NAMI California. Additionally, we have a presentation this Wednesday on family-centered practices in the crisis continuum of care. This is being offered by our partner, Stanford Sierra Youth and Families. And then back by popular demand, we're really excited about RI International is doing a series of 3 trainings about mobile crisis outreach teams. This is the second training following Mobile Crisis Outreach Teams 101. The second training is really doing a deeper dive into looking at staffing and policies of mobile crisis outreach teams. And then also back by popular demand, we're doing another film screening of the documentary, The S Word. And we're situating this film that focuses on people's experiences who have survived suicide, as well as family members, and talking about what we can do along the crisis continuum of care and justice diversion and the resources that are available in the state. Again, we really appreciate you attending today. We hope you'll stay in touch. Connect with us, please, via email. Feel free to call us, or certainly please do visit our website. We have a variety of resources that I mentioned and others that I didn't even get a chance to mention, which are on our website. Please do stay connected to us via social media as well and join our care newsletter. Without further ado, thank you to everyone. Thank you, Ayana, Ruth, everyone who's on the care team who is here. Thank you to our DHCS colleagues who presented today as well. Ashley, Mia, Jessica, to all of our presenters, and to all of you, most importantly, in the field who are doing the work on behalf of California. Thank you so much. We look forward to being in contact.